Every time a new game for an old system rears its head, there's usually a burst of content about it from all over the place. Gruzz's Flappy Mac made a splash, Blah Blob was popular, but Angry Robots didn't seem to get the same treatment, perhaps because there was a price attached to it. Myself, I wasn't paying enough attention, despite having watched Gruzz's videos about it at the time. After I eventually twigged that its dev, Peter Nightingale, as Criminal Caterpillar had made physical copies, which at time of upload are still available, I was all over it, and my only regret is that it took me this long. Welcome then to yesteryear's Mac games, although today's game is not from the years of yester, it's from 2024. The demo of Angry Robots surfaced in 23 and was successfully kickstarted a short time after. Developed primarily with the Macintosh Plus in mind, it fits on an 800K disk alongside a systems folder for hard diskless Macs. Black and white was referenced somewhere as the way it's meant to be played, although I've since forgotten where I read that. But it can also run in colour, which is what I've been playing it in for the most part. As of right now, colour is limited to System 7 for reasons related to the graphical off-screen buffer, although a fix is in the works and will hopefully be with us before the year is out. Angry Robots got its name from Pete's nephew, who enjoyed running around the house pretending to be one. Its direct comparison is Chip's Challenge for Windows, and with this name, it's hard not to also consider Attack of the Pesky Robots by the 8-bit guy, although the gameplay of that is something else entirely. More apt comparisons would be Slider, which shares with it some of its soccer ban elements, Scout, which shares predictable movement of hazards, unlockable sections, and enemies that can't walk over small objects, and perhaps also Kai. So, what will this run on? The answer to that is almost everything. Angry Robots in monochrome is theorised to run on a 512K Mac and up. Gruz demonstrated it on an aforementioned Mac Plus, and I started playing it on my Pismo with OS 9 on the sofa, before then capturing my footage across this and this. It's perfectly happy in OS X's classic environment as well. The password system for progression makes it easy to finish on one machine and resume on another, although I think if one plays it off the floppy it will save progress to that as well. The colour version recommends an 030 CPU to run well, although weaker examples such as the LC2 will still struggle. It isn't mentioned in the documentation, but I found that 256 colours does not appear to offer any visual benefits over 16, and that knocking it down to that on slower systems improve performance and responsiveness, which is vital for some of the action-oriented stages. A quick look at the box then. We have a snappy dot motif with a splendid illustration on the front, which is repeated on the manual. The internals of this are in full colour, and contain the backstory, how to get it running, item and enemy details, and some tips. Alongside the manual is a sticker, a piece of paper with the registration code, and another piece of paper that can be sent back to Peter so that he may inform buyers of updates. I'm not sure a single stamp would get this from Yorkshire to Nova Scotia, but thankfully this functionality also exists on the Criminal Caterpillar website. Finally, there's the red 800K floppy. For those without a working floppy drive, an SD card in place of a hard disk, or are limited to emulators, a download of the game in a compressed .sit file is included in the purchase, which also meant I could get playing before the game got here. Users can also buy a digital-only version for less than a box copy, which halfway through writing this script for this video became pay what you want. To summarise the physical edition though, it's roaringly splendid, and I'm thrilled Peter put the effort into making it. I do hope this video assists in liquidating the remaining stock. Oh, these are Canadian dollars by the way, it's a touch cheaper than it looks. Anyway, back to the game. There's a bit of old Mac-themed backstory here, which is a sensible pick, as every potential buyer of this is going to have that as an interest. Players take control of Matilda the robot, on a quest to rescue her friend Max from the Robo-Knacker's yard. In a nod to the computers running this game, both of them have a 68K processor, and have been branded obsolete in the wake of the new PPC robots that they helped build, and are now running around angrily. Matilda can be controlled with either the arrow keys, numpad, or WASD, the latter being a very sensible pick as some Mac keyboards play it fast and loose with the arrow key locations. Each level has an exit to reach that usually needs unlocking, which is achieved by collecting the required number of floppy disks strewn around the floor. Most of the puzzling in the levels comes from finding keycards to unlock doors, finding items that negate specific hazards, pushing blocks around, and avoiding the titular angry robots, which can move predictably, unpredictably, and straight towards Matilda. There are 51 levels to bumble through, most of which are timed, so it is possible to be flung back to the start if one takes too long. The game also uses this feature to keep track of the fastest times, so players can compete on that. first 10-15 levels ease players into how everything works, and hits full swing round about stage 20. At this point, each level will typically need numerous attempts to figure out the correct actions, correct order of said actions, and sometimes a final shot to do it fast enough. After a few failed attempts at a stage, the game will ask players if they fancy skipping it. And while I only accepted this once for stage 42, which at time of recording I still haven't figured out, my only gripe with this feature is that cancel isn't mapped to a keyboard button such as escape, so I have to move the mouse in and back out again to get past it. This sounds like a stupid thing to whinge about, but when one is repeatedly trying to solve a stage and failing an awful lot, repeatedly navigating this does get a tad annoying. The stages can get tricky, and in some cases, took a good chunk of time to get through. And that could be interpreted as both good and bad. Some of this is a little artificial, as I found myself repeatedly doing half of a stage in order to have another crack at a tricky bit at the end, and sometimes I fell foul of a nefarious final trap. So close, yet so far. The overwhelming majority of the levels, however, are well put together and well balanced, with no one idea overused. Level types include the more soccer band style ones with block pushing taking precedent, action-orientated stages that see Matilda chased around the play area by homing bots, bridge-building stages where routes through water are made with blocks, and the hazard-filled stages that make heavy use of the various items and robot movement patterns. Some memorable moments for me included stage 28, which seemed impossible until I realised there was another vital room that I full-on hadn't noticed. The final puzzle of stage 35, which took me forever to figure out, but felt so simple once I did. Stage 33, which I'm actually unsure if I did correctly. It felt like I cheesed my way to the exit in a way I wasn't supposed to, with some chunks of the level untouched. And the red herring filled stage 40, which while tedious to repeat again and again upon each failure, was nevertheless enjoyable to piece together, and very satisfying to eventually overcome. There's also a couple of stages that are built like other well-known games, which were cool to see. But my absolute favourite was stage 49, and its procession of vacuum robots that are sacrificed one by one to progress through. If I had to pull something out that could stand to be fleshed out a bit, I think it would be sound. There's not a whole lot of it, which makes playing the game quite a quiet experience, sans the racket of the Mac's case fan and the thrashing of buttons on the keyboard. A few more small audio effects for moving around, bumping into walls, and picking things up would be neat. They don't need to be fancy, a beep would be enough. Disk space was cited as the reason for not including music, and that's a bit of a shame too, as Peter did manage to cobble together his own application that got early Mac chips to output a ditty without slowing the game down. Perhaps we'll see developments to the sound in later versions. There's been a couple of bug fixes so far, but I mentioned earlier that a larger update is on the cards that will also feature a revamped level editor. A rudimentary editor does exist already, and the functionality to load community-made levels is also present, so I'm hopeful that this side of the game will really kick off once we get our hands on the enhanced tools. I know I'd certainly like to take a stab at making a few. While there is no specific date for this, it is important to remember that refinements and/or additions can only be worked upon when there's time available to do it, much like my channel. Ultimately, Angry Robots is a passion project of one individual who wanted to make a brand new game for their favoured platform, with the initial release having been a multi-year effort as Peter gradually learnt how to do everything almost from scratch. Factoring all of that in, the result is excellent. New apps for old Macs that help it do stuff in the modern age are not uncommon, but new games are, and this is easily my favourite of them. The appeal may fall short for those avid players of new games for other old platforms, such as 8 and 16-bit consoles, as well as other micros, but I feel that any new game for an old system is principally designed to make using these feel new again, in their own distinctive way. And despite Angry Robots having been made principally with compact Macs in mind, playing in colour on my Mac 2, as I don't have any compacts, absolutely delivers my approximation of a late 80s Mac experience. I'd recommend this enthusiastically to any puzzle game fans with an old Mac available. Snag a boxed copy while you still can. I'm not sure one would really receive the full value of this if limited to an emulator, but with 51 diverse, challenging, and satisfying stages to get through, there is plenty of good game here to enjoy. So with that, we'll leave it here. For further forays into things to do and play on old Macs, check out the rest of my channel. New videos will drop as and when I'm able to make them, so be sure to subscribe to stay on top of whenever that is. In the meantime, I'm away to have another crack at stage 42. Please share your thoughts in the comments section, and thanks for watching. See you next time.